How we doing today, boys and girls? It's your boy Iron Wings 3187 coming at you with another episode of Iron Wings Reviews, or in this case, both Iron Wings Reviews and Storytime with Iron Wings, because this is actually the third gun I ever bought for myself, and actually probably one of my favorite finds. So, today we will be discussing what is probably one of my favorite pawn shop finds, a 12 gauge Parker Brothers VH model shotgun. What the VH stands for is your Vulcan steel barrels. Instead of being the old twist or cast barrels, this is actually, from what I understand, steel barrels that were made out of steel blanks instead of being wrapped or poured, making them substantially stronger. And in fact, it was advertised in my local pawn shop while I was in college where I bought this, that despite this shotgun's fairly rough condition, it was able to, for sure, handle bismuth and steel shot. So, I picked this up about 5 years ago in a small pawn shop in Arcata, California, called, a small gun shop in Arcata, California called Stick to Your Guns. At the time, I believe it cost me $150 or maybe even $200. I can't really remember. But when I walked into the store, the owner, my friend at the time, Steve, knew me, and I was quite the regular at his store, as I had been going in at least every other week on my paydays and buying 40 to 60 rounds of 8mm Mauser, because he had PPU and cellular and billet 8mm Mauser for about $15, fairly cheap at the time. But because he had it, I would go in there, I would buy a couple, and I'd look at the guns he had. And for a while, I was looking at what I think was a Remington Model 12, which was the pump action 22 they used to have, designed by John Peterson. It was the first, I think, pump action 22 gallery gun without a hammer exposed. So I was debating on one of those for a while because I wanted a pump action gallery gun for the longest time. But I kept putting it off because the two he had were in pretty rough shape too. One of them had no buttstock and wouldn't open up reliably because it was pretty well rusted. The other one was missing its rear sight and had been drilled and tapped for a scope. So I kind of hesitated on buying them, wasn't a big fan of them because of all the beat up nature of them. But then one day I come in and there's a whole new section of guns that he had gotten on the wall in his shop. And I can't really remember what the situation was behind these. From what I remember, I think he said he bought a safe in an estate sale, and a bunch of guns were in them, including an old Winchester 1892 that's entire left-hand side of the receiver had been rotted through with rust, because all those guns in the safe had been wrapped in flannel in the Northern California humid climate, without a goldenrod in the safe. I can't remember the specifics behind this purchase, so I won't go into it like I would normally, but basically he had a bunch of other little cowboy rifles, lever actions, that sort of thing, and this Parker Brothers shotgun. Now, I had already been looking at what he had in his shop. He had a Stevens 16 gauge double barrel from the old Sears and Roebuck's catalogs, and he wanted $200 for it. I kind of didn't want to pull the trigger on that because the stock was cracked also. So there were a lot of guns I kind of looked at and just hesitated at buying because of the condition being so rough. But when I saw this shotgun, I knew it was in rough shape because it still had that fuzzy frog rust, I guess you'd call it. The stuff that's almost more like a mold or a fur than actual rust. I asked him to pull it down. I inspected it, and sure enough, you can kind of see it now. I'll see if I can throw in some good quality photos. But basically from about the midpoint of the barrel back, there is almost no bluing left on this unless you were to pull the fore end off and then look underneath and you would see what the bluing's supposed to look like. I asked him the price because I recognized the name Parker Brothers, and he said he wanted $150 for it because of the rust and he didn't know how bad it was. I pull it apart, look at it, I pulled the barrels off and wrung them, and I'm not going to do that now because I really don't feel like reassembling this back on camera. It is fairly simple, but I just don't feel like doing it right now, and it rings like a church bell. I don't see any major pitting on the barrels. I kind of like the stock. It's gouged, it's deeply beat up, but I like the look of it, and I like the carvings that are on it. From what I have been able to turn up in my research, based on the date, the name, the branding, because it looks like someone did a ranch-style brand on the side, my guess is this was owned, because of the location of Arcata, it was owned by the first basketball coach of the YMCA in Stockton. It's not really that far of a jump. It's only about a 5 to 6 hour drive, and given this thing has existed well over 100 years, for it to go a 6 hour drive away is not that unreasonable. I'm not going to claim that's what it is, but just based on the name on it, the time carved in, like the date, and the association with the C on the side of the stock, I'd probably guess it was owned by this individual. So, what made me buy this shotgun? Well, as I've stated in my previous video regarding my Stevens 947-8, I can't remember the proper nomenclature for that shotgun. I'm a 12 gauge fanatic. I like the double barrels. I like single shots because of the Evil Dead series. When I saw this, add in I recognized the Parker Brothers name as being one that's incredibly valued amongst collectors today, and I decided I'd take a chance on it. Pulled it apart. When I first got it, the safety did not work at all because it had been frozen up from whatever gunk's in there. It's still a little sluggish, but it actually works now, so you can manually switch it back and forth. The major issue is that we can't pull the barrels down, but it won't automatically, after cocking it, put it back into safe, which most of these double barrels will. The barrels are not off face hardly. There's a little bit of wiggle in them, but not enough that you can actually hear or see them wiggle unless you look very closely at the breech face. The actual lever, if you can see it here, let me flip it around, is just a little bit south of true. It's heading just a little bit to the left. It's not perfectly centered, but given how good of a mechanical condition this shotgun is, I'm not so worried about it. The bores are actually probably the best part about this shotgun, as they are pretty much mirror new. Like, no pitting, no burnout, nothing. It looks almost brand new down those bores. The one thing I would be worried about is the fact that these shotgun barrels are pretty thin. So what I do is I don't actually shoot full-powered, even game loads through this, like the low-powered, low-brass shotgun shells you would get at Walmart. I don't shoot those through this except very sparingly. For the most part, I shoot birdshot Aguila mini shells through it, just to reduce their strain on the barrel, on the stock. That's another thing, is I'm not sure if the stock is original to this gun, because double-barrel shotgun stocks are very notorious with these thin wrists for splitting, snapping, having damage done to them. So instead what I do is what I think is either it was refinished at some point in time because it's missing the checkering here at the wrist, it's missing the original butt pad. So either I think this is the original stock that has been refinished, or someone has taken one off of something like a Stevens shotgun based on the fact that there's a Ranger's butt pad, or a Ranger butt pad on this, a recoil pad. And Ranger, from what I read, was a double-barrel Stevens shotgun brand sold in the 50s and 60s under Sears and Roebuck. So I think someone had an old spare shotgun stock lying around, saw the cracks or saw damage to the original Parker Brothers stock, and replaced it or potentially refinished it. And I'm guessing they might have refinished it because if you actually look, let me get up and show you, there's quite a bit of shine and sheen left on this stock. but there isn't a whole lot on the actual fore end here. So that leads me to believe someone might have refinished it at some point in time and done a poor job at it. At that same time, because the original Parker Brothers butt plates were early plastic, they were known for also being very brittle, so it could have broken and they could have replaced it. So this might still be the original stock that just got refinished. You can't really tell, though, unfortunately, because of the work that's been done on it. I'd say I got a pretty good deal on this for $200 despite the rough shape it's in. And personally, I quite like it. I quite like the heritage to it. And my dad has always wanted a double-barrel shotgun. This is kind of where the Storytime with Iron Wings aspect takes over. My dad loves the Stoger coach gun my uncle used to own. He thought it was fantastic. He thought it was fun at the range. And for years, he asked my uncle after it and wanted to try and buy it, but my uncle would never sell it. So when I saw this, not only did I want it for myself, I wanted it for my dad because I thought it would make a fantastic gift for him. So I buy it, I disassemble it, and keep it at my friend's house or in the back of my car for a good 6 months while I finish up getting my college degree. When I graduate, I go get it from my friend's house, throw it in the trunk of my truck, and I drive from Northern California back to my hometown. And I reassemble it, and I do a deep clean of it in my garage, which you see presently. Scrubbed all the rust off of it based on a tips and tricks video I got from a YouTube video using a penny and some Hoppe's number 9. Didn't re-blue it, didn't do anything other than just get the rust off of it, clean it up, and get some of that tacky crap off of it that had developed while it was in that safe, probably from cigarette smoke. And since then, what happened is, after I did that, I stashed it in the safe for about a month, and then gave it to my dad for Father's Day, and he just loves it. He'll go out every year or so with some of the Gila mini shells that I own, and he'll shoot it, and he'll have a blast with it, because he just loves going out with a box of clays, and not only using my Mossberg, but this, and just hitting them out of the sky. He thinks it's great fun. And I asked him, it's a little bit rough, it's mechanically so-so in terms of trusting a full-powered load. Would you want me to get it refinished? He looked me dead in the eye and said, hell no. And his explanation is basically he loves the shotgun as it is because it tells a story. It's a 100-year-old gun, it looks rough, but it shoots, and he likes how it looks because of the character to it. He doesn't mind there's no bluing on it, because to him that means he can use this shotgun. He doesn't have to worry about getting any worse shape than it already is in. So, with that out of the way, folks, this has been kind of a story time with Iron Wings. Would I recommend you guys kind of pick one of these up for yourself? I could probably see you guys picking one up if you find a good deal. Parker Brothers are known for their quality, and they're very well liked amongst gun collectors. Even if it's not in great condition, you can just pick it up and keep a hold of it and eventually move on from it, sell it, or just pass it down in the family lineage, because this is going to be one of those guns that just will never really lose its value, especially in this condition, where in this condition for $150 or $200, you can't really go wrong with it. So this has been Iron Wings 3187. Thank you for watching. Hit a like, subscribe down below, and tell me what you think of this gun. Would you buy it?